Well, greetings once again, my fellow horror fanatics. Your host is back for his latest video. This is kind of a last-minute production for me, because I just want to give a quick reaction and offer my thoughts about the teaser images that were released earlier today for Stephen King's The Stand, the television series that will be debuting later this year, presumably. Now, I'm going to warn you right now that there will be some spoilers here as I react to these images, because I have read the book, and I was a kid when the 1990s miniseries was released, so I've got some insight on what I think we should be seeing, and whether or not that's happening in these particular shots. Now, as far as the book goes, I actually think it's one of Stephen King's best. He really does paint an incredibly rich tapestry for his landscape of a depopulated, abandoned United States that has to slowly rediscover itself, not just in terms of rebuilding society, but also in terms of finding its conscience again. But the book is also flawed, because it absolutely suffers from his characteristic habit of rambling. A lot. And it can make it an incredibly tedious read, because he will get sidetracked, introducing us to all these really small sub-characters and mini-plots that seemingly have no real contributing factor, but that ultimately are vital to the story. You know, a character who appears on no more than a few pages early in the book ends up having a pretty important role 3/3 the way later. So it's not the easiest read. And that's why my expectations for it being adapted to the visual medium are pretty low going in. Because to tell this story with the full nuance you require, I think you'd need to do it as a feature film, or more appropriately, 3 feature films for each phase of the story, and each one would probably have to be 2 to 3 hours long. Part of what was very much of a letdown about the 90s miniseries was that they crunched the story so much, because they didn't have a choice for single-hour episodic format. There was no other way. But it's very distracting, particularly if you want to be as close to the source material as possible. Which leads to my little gripe going into this. They've already indicated they're going to be starting the story from a different point in the plot, rather than from the very beginning. Now, given that it is a very disjointed story, this may not be a bad decision, but based on what I'm seeing in some of these images and some of the casting choices they've made, I get the impression they're already pulling another Dark Tower, where between some very off-the-wall casting and taking a total hatchet to the script, that they're really going to end up presenting a finished product that in no way, shape, or form resembles the source material. You know, if you want to make something different, just make something friggin' different. Which leads me to this first image of Randall Flagg. And it's really off-putting to me. Look, I've got all the respect in the world for the Skarsgård family. Their chops now in this kind of genre are thoroughly set in stone, but this picture, it's not Randall Flagg. So here we have Alex Skarsgård, obviously as Randall Flagg. I presume he is in Vegas, which is more toward the latter half of the book, because of the lighting. He's probably standing on a balcony overlooking the Strip. And doesn't look terrible, but not quite faithful either, because I've yet to see another depiction where Flagg has a beard or short hair. Yeah, I know it's a petty point to make about the guy's hair, but I mean, in every visual depiction we've seen of Randall Flagg, whether it's Marvel Comics, whether it's inserts in the Dark Towers, or books, or in The Stand itself, Randall Flagg has long, scraggly kind of hair that just lends to the eccentricity of his appearance. That ain't it. And no, he doesn't have a beard. However, the next picture, this is definitely more intriguing. Now, here we obviously have the first meeting of Lord Henrod and Flagg in prison. This shot has a lot more power, and it's a lot more eerie. And I definitely like the wasted look for Lloyd. See, that shot actually does capture what we should see. You know, the way that Lloyd Henright's clothes are so baggy on his frame, that shows us he's been starving in this cell for several days, if not a couple of weeks. He's totally at the last ounce of energy he's got. And then here is this dark temptation offering him freedom, but still approaching him in an almost condescending manner, which is just going to make Lloyd all the more grateful to cling to this figure. Now, here I believe we have Herald Lauder, or at least that's what it says on the wall behind him. I believe it is Owen Teague who is playing this character. Very small in the first portion of the book, very big right in the middle. But I gotta be honest, that is not how I picture him looking. My biggest issue here is also kind of petty. Harold Lauder is supposed to be fat. I mean, I know that's something that seems inconsequential, but for his character arc, it is important because, you know, his weight loss and in the clearing of his complexion and his change of demeanor as he travels to Boulder and establishes himself there, that's meant to tell us how he's not a completely irredeemable person. He does have a shot at a new life if he can just let go of his hurtful past. And he squanders that opportunity. That's supposed to add an element of tragedy to his character. It was totally not shown to us in the 1990s miniseries, and I'm not seeing it here so far. Now, here we have, I think, Jovan Adepo as Larry Underwood and Amber Heard as Nadine Cross, obviously walking through the remnants of one of the abandoned cities. I think Amber Heard will do a good job with the character. Jovan Adepo I'm not as familiar with, but I gotta be honest, it's a little unbelievable to me that society fell apart quite that fast. I mean, I know in the book it's post-apocalyptic, you know. The Captain Trips virus has wiped out the bulk of the world populace, or at least the bulk of the US populace. But yeah, the initial plot, it unfolds over the course of like less than a year, I believe. I mean, the book obviously takes several years to unfold, but that initial plot, the spread of Captain Trips, it's less than a year, I believe, and so I find it kind of hard to believe that things would have broken down quite that much that fast. And here we have, oh no. Oh. Mother Abigail never looked quite so unmotherly. Look, I've got a lot of respect for Whoopi Goldberg. She's got one of the most legendary careers of any modern actress. She was one of the key leading ladies of the 80s and the 90s. And the role of Mother Abigail is not entirely a departure for her, but this really does not work. I mean, I'm hoping she'll prove me wrong, but Mother Abigail is a woman over 100 years old. She's supposed to be very frail and very emaciated looking. That don't look so frail. And the character may not be a huge leap for some of her prior roles that she's had. She was a nun, after all, in the Sister Act movies, and she was a impoverished Southern girl in Color Purple. But I mean, Mother Abigail's appearance is supposed to be like a contradiction of her frailty, belying the strength of her convictions and the power of her faith. And this just does not give me that impression. And of course, the elephant in the fucking room for that image is that she looks like she's got a fucking dollar store mop on her head. Ay. So, those are my thoughts and reactions to the teaser images for Stephen King's The Stand. You know, I really want to be surprised by this. I really want to be proven wrong. But based off It Chapter 2 and off The Dark Tower, I'm not feeling all that hopeful at the moment. So, I hope that some of you will agree. If not, feel free to let me know your thoughts and feelings on the subject. As always, I urge you to please check out House of Tortured Souls for my articles, and keep your ears peeled to the House That Screams podcast, where I'm a frequent guest. Once again, just like if we were living with Captain Trips, please take precautions, wear gloves, wear a mask, wash your hands, cough into your elbow, keep your distance, look out for yourself and for others. And as always, eat, drink, and be scary, and enjoy.